Next from Springfield, Governor Pat Quinn and Republican candidate for governor Bruce Rauner address members of the Illinois Manufacturers Association. Governor Quinn speaks first, explaining what he believes are the successes of his administration thus far and where he sees the state going forward. Candidate Rauner then speaks, telling the Manufacturers Association how he plans to improve Illinois' business climate and his other top priorities if elected governor. This runs about 50 minutes.
Thank you, Bob. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the 41st Governor of the State of Illinois, His Excellency Governor Pat Quinn.
Thank you. We welcome all to Springfield. This is a busy time of year, and I was thinking back about a year ago, we came together, and want to salute all the employers of Illinois who work so hard every day to balance your books and to move our economy forward. I think the most important thing we can do in Illinois is to focus on our economic growth to help everyday people have decent jobs and support a middle-class standard of living. So I want to thank you for doing that. I've been governor for 5 years, and I have been here a few times. And 5 years ago, as you know, our state was in a difficult situation, to say the least. We had an ethical crisis, we had a fiscal crisis, we had an economic crisis, really, in our whole country. And we have banded together in the best traditions of Illinois democracy and worked together to negotiate our way and navigate our way through these difficult challenges. And I think our state has definitely turned the corner. We've made a comeback. I wanted to talk today about some of the things we've done and some of the things we will do. And I look forward to working with everybody here. I understand that you don't always agree with me, but we have agreed on a number of things along the way. And I did want to recite a few of those because I'm grateful to the retail merchants and the Manufacturers Association for your help along the way at some very important missions that all of us had to participate in and work on if to make Illinois a better state. Right after I was sworn in, as you know, our state had not had an investment program in construction and public works in 10 years. And within 10 weeks, we were able to pass Illinois Jobs Now, our investment of over $31 billion in the infrastructure of our state. Our roads, our bridges, our rail systems, our water systems, our schools, our broadband deployment, all of that we've invested in the past 5 years, and we've really received dividends from that great investment. I look forward to doing another plan of capital investment and working with everybody in this room. But we created lots of jobs, and we laid a foundation for economic growth that will be very strong for Illinois today and tomorrow. We also worked on unemployment insurance reform. It was a collaborative effort, very important in state government across the way there in the Capitol, that we have people working together in both parties in both houses. We also worked together on workmen's compensation reform, which was a very difficult challenge, an important issue. I want to thank the retail merchants and the Illinois Manufacturers Association. They endorsed our proposal. We passed it through the Senate, and we passed it through the House, and I signed it into law. I think that was a very major step forward. We're always interested in continuing on that journey, but we made important steps of reform with respect to workmen's comp, and don't let anybody tell you differently. Your organization, your members really helped us when it really counted, and we're grateful to you. We also streamlined our environmental regulations, which were very, very important for our state to make sure that we do have in Illinois protection of our environment. At the same time, we don't want excessive delay with respect to making decisions. We passed in Illinois several years ago a landmark education reform, demanding more accountability from our schools, from our teachers, putting performance above tenure, making sure that there were report cards for parents who have their children in our schools to make sure that these children are receiving an excellent education. It's important anytime we talk about education to have these accountability reforms that we enacted, and it's a model for the whole United States. Together, we worked on nursing home reform, a very, very important reform in our state. We have many fragile and vulnerable citizens in Illinois in our nursing homes. We want to have proper regulation, proper inspection. Our State Department of Public Health is charged with this responsibility. We passed an important law requiring inspection of nursing homes to make sure they're safe and sound for everyone. If anyone was going to treat our seniors wrong, we want to make sure we get to the bottom of it and get to it quickly. Now, as you know, we have, in the course of the last 5 years, worked together on budget issues. We had to overhaul our Medicaid program. We received notice that it was going to have $17 billion deficit if we didn't act quickly. We worked together to restructure our Medicaid program. We reduced the budget. We were able to get proper restructuring of the programs, and our Medicaid program is a lot better today than it was a few years ago. As a matter of fact, the most recent numbers, we've added 510,000 people in the past year to the health care coverage ranks in our state, and that's an important mission to have a healthy group of citizens. We've been able to cut our state budget by $5.7 billion in the past 5 years. It's very important to understand that we've cut our budget. The budget today, the operating budget of Illinois, is at the same level as it was in 2008. Now that's, I think, an important achievement. We had to economize. We had to close facilities. There are some that take the political course of trying to keep certain facilities that needed to be closed. They want to keep them open, and it's never an easy job, I can guarantee you that. But we had to close 50 facilities in Illinois. And sometimes people yell at you. I've had standing ovations from folks who didn't agree with my decisions, but it's important to understand that in order to have a balance in our budget, sometimes costs have to be cut, facilities have to be closed. I've been able to make those decisions and stand by them, and I think it's very, very important that we do that. As you know, we have a bill backlog that accumulated in Illinois during the recession when there was a lack of revenue. We've been able to reduce our bill payments, pay our bills by $5 billion. We've reduced it by $5 billion. Our goal in Illinois is to make sure we get on a 30-day payment schedule, and we're very close to that. If we can pass our budget this year, a very important budget, we'll be able to get very much close to a 30-day cycle with respect to paying our bills. I think that's an important responsibility. We also understand that we have many employees in state government, but we have fewer today than we did 5 years ago. Matter of fact, our ratio of government employees to the population of our state, almost 13 million people, is one of the lowest in the country. But we believe in the collective bargaining, in respect. We don't demonize public employees. I don't think that is the right way to go in life. And we negotiate with our employees. We negotiated a collective bargaining agreement that saved taxpayers $900 million in health care costs. It's the best achievement, I think, of any collective bargaining agreement we've ever had in our state. And that's part of the reason our state is in better economic condition today than it was 5 years ago. But I think clearly the most important reform we've been able to make, thanks to folks in this room, your organization stood by us in a very tough time. We had to work and work month after month in order to get a pension reform bill passed into law in our state. Many people talked about the need, and a lot of folks identified what needed to be done. But we had to put the votes together in the House and Senate and get those two to agree in a bipartisan way with both Democrats and Republicans, House members and Senate members, voting for public pension reform. Our state had a $100 billion liability, a cloud over our economy, and we had to address it. There are some who wanted to argue it away and say it's not necessary. There were some, frankly, as we came down to the vote in December, who wanted to sabotage our effort. You're going to hear from one of those people in an hour or so after your lunch. I stood by your organizations to make sure we got that bill passed in the House, passed in the Senate, and I signed it into law. A bipartisan measure, a landmark measure that the Illinois Manufacturers Association and the retail merchants supported. And I want to thank you for doing that. We had many more groups who understood this was an act of political courage. And there were some for political reasons that wanted to undo our good work. And I'm glad that legislators in the majority disregarded what you're going to hear from some, that we should not have fundamental pension reform. I thought it was necessary. That's why I signed it into law. And Moody's, a credit rating agency that rarely gives much praise at all, said it may have been the biggest pension reform ever done in our country. And we did it here in Illinois. We understood our responsibility to our economy and to those who work in our economy and to our businesses. So I'm very happy we were able to get that done. And I also want to thank both associations for your commitment to our economy. We've worked together on things like STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. We were able to get a very large grant from the federal government for our digital manufacturing center. We have a manufacturing lab in Illinois that our state has invested in, both the manufacturing lab and the digital manufacturing of it's really going to be led by the University of Illinois. These are very, very important achievements. Our economy, we've been able to grow 257,000 jobs since the recession ended. We have our unemployment at the lowest level in the last 5 years. We still have much more work to do. But we were recently found by Site Selection Magazine to be the third best place in America to locate a business, to locate corporate expansion. And we want to continue that. And one of the best ways to do that is to make sure we invest in our education. And that's why I want to talk today about the budget issue that's before the legislature. Got to pass a budget by the end of this month. And I know you're going over to talk to your legislators with great respect and courtesy. It's very important we do that. We have to have civility in Illinois politics. I'm in a campaign. I've been in a lot of campaigns. But I always believe in civility. I think it's important that you don't engage in trash talking and name calling and things like that. The issues are too important. And that's why the budget issue is so important in our state. We have made many, many fiscal reforms in the last 5 years. We have made our state stronger economically and fiscally. We do not want to go backwards to where we were before. That's why I presented a budget a few weeks ago that called for maintaining our income tax in order to make investments in our education, to prevent our education from being savaged by savage cuts. I think it's super important that all of our businesses, many of them represented here today, understand how important it is to invest in education if we're going to have a strong economy. I believe in early childhood education, from birth to 5. We have a birth to 5 initiative that will have the most robust investment in state history. We have 1 million children in Illinois who are born today to the age of 5. We have to invest in their early childhood education. It is the very best investment government can ever make. Same way with our K-12. We've enacted our accountability standards, but we have to make sure that we don't see savage cuts in our education budget. It's very important to understand that if the state government doesn't live up to its primary responsibility to invest in education in Illinois, those school districts all across Illinois are going to raise your property taxes. That is something that everyone should understand in dealing with this budget. If you don't have proper investment in education from the state of Illinois, local school districts will have no choice but to lay off teachers, increase class size, and raise local property taxes. Now, in our state, we have a very large reliance on property taxes, far more than the national average. We're 20% above the national average. Illinois collects more money every year in property taxes than it does in the income tax and sales tax combined. We cannot let this continue. This is a drag on your businesses. It's a drag on our economy in Illinois. We want to reduce reliance on property taxes. We don't want to use a 19th century complicated, unfair property tax system to fund the most important part of the 21st century. That's educating our students, whether they be young in K-12 or whether they be a little bit older in our community colleges and our four-year universities. We cannot afford to turn the clock back and reduce state investment in education. That's why before the election, in a very concrete and specific budget that I laid out, with all kinds of details, I laid out what our state needs to do in order to maintain our investment in education. The alternative, perish the thought, will be savage cuts in school districts all across the state. 12–13% cuts in our school districts of elementary and secondary education. In our community colleges, four-year universities, same way. We cannot afford the University of Illinois or any of our other public universities to have savage budget cuts. That's a prescription for going back when it comes to growing jobs. We need to invest in education. And I was just with some students here who were visiting in Springfield. We have a program. It's been around in Illinois for over half a century. It's called the Monetary Assistance Program. Complicated name, it's a scholarship program. It provides scholarships to students who have financial need, but who have been admitted to either community college or four-year university, public or private. DePaul, for example, has got many, many students with MAP scholarships. It's the largest private university in the Midwest. University of Illinois, all of our state universities, many students are able to go to these universities because of our scholarship program. We invest about $370 million in this program. 140,000 students get scholarships. The tragedy is that there are 153,000 students admitted to college with financial need that don't get the scholarships because we run out of money. Now, I've proposed in our budget that over the next 5 years we double our investment in MAP scholarships. This is the best investment in human minds that we can possibly come up with, because those men and women who get those scholarships, more than half of them are of color. Many, many of them are first in their family to go to college. And the statistics show that they graduate from college the same as those who don't get scholarships, but they stay in Illinois. They want to be in Illinois. They want to work for you in Illinois. They want to grow in Illinois. So I believe in investing in those everyday people who are the heart and soul of our state. College affordability is super important. Whether we're investing in early childhood education or whether we're investing in scholarships or anything in between, it's important we understand from the governor in a specific, concrete way that we must have the money to make these investments. For those who tell you, you can tax less, spend less, that means learn less. And they're not telling you the truth, because we cannot afford in our state over the next year or two to have a $4 billion reduction in our investment, not only in education, but our public health. Do we want our seniors without the proper oversight of nursing homes? We've got to make sure we have proper investments, and using the income tax based on ability to pay is the best way to go. Relying on property taxes or regressive levies or savage cuts is not the right way to go. It will not help our economy. So I'm going to fight as hard as I can to pass our budget. I hope you agree. We cannot have the highest property taxes in the nation. That will not help our economy. I served as the commissioner of the Cook County Board of Property Tax Appeals 30 years ago. I heard firsthand from businesses and individuals with homes and other properties with respect to the property tax system. We are at a turning point in Illinois economic and fiscal history. If we go in the right direction, we will use our income tax system to reduce reliance on property taxes. taxes. We have in our proposal a job training tax credit for our businesses to make sure when you're training your workers, you get a tax credit. We want to encourage that. We also have an earned income tax credit to help families raising children. We want to make our system fair. And I think this is a fundamental issue that affects every business, every individual in this state. Now, yesterday, I had the honor, I live in the governor's mansion, it's a special privilege, but a visitor came to the governor's mansion, and that's Jim Edgar, former Governor Jim Edgar, and a good friend. And we talked about a lot of things, but we talked about what he tried in 1997. And it was, I think it's probably his greatest regret, that that year, Illinois did pass more income tax revenue for education, passed it in the House, with property tax relief and reform as part of the package. It went over to the Senate. Governor Edgar told me he had the votes on the floor of the Senate to get that passed. But the President of the Senate didn't let the bill be called. And Illinois in 1997, 17 years ago, lost that opportunity to really do something for the next generation, to do a fundamental, bold reform that improves our economy and improves our education and makes us a more decent society. Now, Governor Edgar told me that what I'm doing with respect to our budget is the right thing to do. Matter of fact, the credit rating agencies, which I know a lot of your businesses deal with, they're not exactly given the high praise of anything. But all three credit agencies that look at our state economy and our state budget have said positive words about my budget proposal. They know that Illinois cannot go back to a situation with billions of bills unpaid. Our budget will roll down the amount of money that we owe, and you get to a 30-day cycle. Those credit rating agencies know that we have to have a revenue structure that balances with the expenditures. And they understand that balance is very, very important. And they're looking for specifics. Now, in a little while, you're going to hear from someone whose plan for our budget and can be summed up in 3 words. Mum's the word. I don't think that's a good thing for our state. I know Governor Edgar, when he was governor, and he's a different party than I, spelled out specifically what he would do with respect to investing in education, using the income tax to help reduce reliance on property taxes. This is a bipartisan measure in our state. This is something that all businesses should embrace. Do not fall for platitudes that are easy to say. Sounds good if you say it fast, but they don't get to the bottom of what we have to do in Illinois, which is to have in this campaign candidates who lay out with specific, concrete detail what they will do to make our state better. I believe in Illinois, like everyone else in this room. We can work together to continue the comeback that we've made over the last 5 years. We've got lots more work to do, but it all begins with having a fair budget that invests in our students and our children. We are custodians of the children of Illinois, and together we've got to make sure they've got a great future. Thank you very much.
You know what? You call yourself special interests. Greg was just joking a little bit about that. Your interests are some of the interests that are not being represented here in the state government in Springfield. Your interests, you guys are the backbone of our economy. You guys are the future to our prosperity. Your success is the key to, I'm gonna have to give this thing up. Let's go back and forth. I don't know. I'll turn it, you know what, I'll go to this. I like to move around, so. There we go, it's off. If you are taken for granted, if you guys are looked at as a piggy bank to be broken into whenever money's needed, if you guys are regarded as, you know, selfish folks who don't look out for your employees and don't look out for your customers, but are just out to take advantage and make money, greedy money grubbing, and you're really the enemy of progressive thought, you know what happens? Loss of our prosperity, loss of our future. I'm here for a simple reason. I love the state of Illinois passionately. I was born and raised here. We raised our 6 kids here. We built businesses here. I love Illinois. And I'm here because my friends are leaving the state. I have friends in your community, manufacturing companies, retail companies, healthcare companies. They're leaving the state. And you know what? They've said to me, Bruce, you should leave too. Come with us. Move to Texas. Move to Indiana. Move to Tennessee. Change your residency to Florida. You know what? That makes me mad. That makes me outraged. This is my home. This is your home. And we've got failure in Springfield government that is wrecking the future of our home. And I won't stand for it. I just won't sit back and let it happen. I won't. And I've lost my confidence that the career politicians here in Springfield will really look out for your interests and run the government for your benefit, rather than for the benefit of the big government special interests that make their money from the government. The interests that make their money from the government are the ones calling the shots in Springfield. They're taking your money and spending it on other things, and you don't have the money then to hire people. You don't have the money to invest and grow. And as long as that's true, nothing else matters. If we don't have a booming economy that's pro-business and pro-growth, nothing else matters. We can't afford education, we can't afford health care, we can't afford infrastructure, we can't afford anything else. Our politicians in here don't understand the business of government is to create a business environment that's pro-job creation. Number one priority. Nothing else more important than that. Here in Springfield, though, no, it's not the mindset. The government is here creating regulatory barriers, tax burdens, and a bureaucracy that's there to throw up roadblocks and barricades to your investment and your growth. They don't regard you guys as partners to the economic growth and prosperity of the state. They regard you guys as the enemy. I've sat there, I've talked with them. In fact, I've met with legislators who said to me, Bruce, we don't think business in Illinois is taxed enough. We don't think business in Illinois is regulated enough. I've sat there and said it to me. And as long as we've got that mindset, we don't have a future. We've entered a long, slow economic death spiral. And we've got to pull out of it. Good news is we can. You can see what Indiana's done. You can see what Wisconsin's doing, Michigan's doing, Ohio's doing. They're turning their economies around, they're turning their governments around, and we can do the same thing here. And that's why I'm running. I want to lead that effort. With you guys as partners, we can lead that effort. Restore the prosperity and the great future for our businesses, our children, our economic vitality. That's exactly why I'm running. We had a big debate in my family whether I should run, because I'm not a politician. I'm a self-made business guy. I'm an entrepreneur and an investor, just like many of you. 6 kids around the dinner table, my wife and I debating, should Dad run? Oh, it's going to be rough. My youngest daughter says, Daddy, don't run for governor. I don't want you to go to jail. Is that a sad comment? When a 13-year-old girl knows that's what our governors do. We've had 4 out of the last 8. 4 out of 8 go to prison. I mean, come on. And we have higher unemployment rate than Michigan. Come on. It's ridiculous. We have every reason to be thriving, every reason to be kicking the tails of all the other states in the Midwest. We have the best people. We have the best location. We have the most fertile farms. We have the capital, the heart of America in Chicago. We used to have great infrastructure and great schools. We're defunding that. We're losing some of our competitive advantage. But we used to be the best at virtually everything, and we've lost our way. Our political leaders in Springfield are failing us. And I can't let it happen. I won't let it happen. I will not leave this state without a fight. I will not leave this state without a massive fight to turn around our economic prosperity. That's why I'm running for governor. I want to go to work for you. I want to go to work for you. I want you to hire me. I'm going to work for $1 a year. I don't need a salary. I'm not taking a pension. And I'm going to put together a great team. I want to put together the best team that's ever turned around a state government anywhere in America. I've got 3 of Mitch Daniels' folks working with our campaign. Mitch Daniels, I think, was the best governor in America when he turned around Indiana. He did an extraordinary job. But I've been studying with the governors in Michigan and in Wisconsin and in Florida and around the country with Mitch Daniels as my role model. We are going to steal their best people, steal their best ideas, and assemble talented folks who really know Medicaid, who really know pensions, who really know government operations. And I want to put folks in charge of the regulatory bodies in your industries who actually understand your industry and want to be your partner, your ally, to create an environment, knock down barricades so you're growing, you're thriving. You have every motivation to invest and hire the people of Illinois. That's what I want to deliver. I want to deliver 4 things for you and every voter and every working family in this state. More jobs. Number 1, more jobs in a pro-business booming economy. Number 2, an efficient, effective, transparent government that reduces the tax burden on all of us. Number 3, invest in education so education is world-class in Illinois. world-class in every school district, and bring back vocational training, job training, technical training back into our public high schools again, because they've been taken out. And number 4, put term limits on all the politicians in Springfield. 8 years is a long time to be in one office. That's a long time. You know, when George Washington founded America, he could have been president for life. In fact, many Americans wanted George Washington to be king. George Washington said, no, I'll be a public servant, I'll work for the people of America for 8 years, and I'll leave. He did that 100% voluntarily. That wasn't the law back then. And that's the reason America was really alone among the early democracies. We didn't have a country like in Europe and other places that got democracy, elected the first person, and the person said, wow, I like this job. I think I'll keep it. I'll be a dictator for the rest of my life. That happened in most other countries that got democracy. Didn't happen here. George Washington controlled the military. He could have done anything he wanted. He said, no, I'll be a public servant. I'll work for 8 years and leave. We need that mindset in government. We need public servants to be our political leaders, not career politicians making money from their office. That's what we've got to do. And I've tried to get the legislature to vote for it. They're not getting there. So we're going to bring it to you and the voters of our state in a voter referendum. We decided to take it to you guys directly so the legislature can't block it. And we needed to collect 298,000 signatures by last Monday. Well, we collected 591,000 signatures, almost double what we needed. And you know what? We are going to get it on the ballot, and they're already suing to block it. Because you know what? The system here doesn't, the folks who like the status quo don't like term limits. They don't like, but you know what? We're going to get it on the ballot. We're going to overcome the lawsuit, and then you can decide, and the voters in Illinois can decide whether you want term limits here in Springfield. My wife, my running mate and I, Evelyn Sanguinetti, we're going to term limit ourselves at 8 years. We'll do that voluntarily. I'll push again, as I did last month, to get a bill passed in the legislature so all future governors, attorney generals, lieutenant governors are capped at 8 years. We'll try to get it done. If we can't get that done, we'll limit ourselves. We need new leaders, fresh ideas, people who are doing it for the right reasons. We can get that done. We can change the culture in Springfield so the government's run for your benefit. The government today is not running for your benefit, and as long as that's true, we don't have an economic future. And I don't want our kids to have to leave the state. I don't want you to have to leave the state because the climate is better somewhere else to hire people. We've got to turn that around. I'm very excited to deliver that result. More jobs, lower taxes, better schools, term limits. Like a laser, we're going to focus on that. And let's do some Q&A. I'll tell you how we're going to get that done in detail here. I'd love to do some Q&A with you. Quickly, my running mate is Evelyn Sanguinetti. I think some of you have met her, but many haven't. She's a superstar. She's going to be hopefully our next lieutenant governor. She's a classic American success story. Her mom was a refugee from communism in Cuba. Came to Miami from Cuba. Her dad was a legal immigrant from Ecuador. Evelyn's mom was 15 years old when she had Evelyn. But Evelyn grew up in poverty, food stamps, tough circumstance, but she battled her way through, got a scholarship to Florida International University, went to John Marshall Law School in Chicago, then she became Assistant Illinois Attorney General under Jim Ryan. She got elected to the Wheaton City Council in DuPage County, and she's a leader in the Republican National Hispanic Assembly. She's a dynamic, charismatic, passionate, hard-working person, and I love her dearly. And she's going to be a great lieutenant governor. You know, and she's going to help us message as throughout this state. We're going to ask for voters that haven't traditionally voted Republican. Our problems are bipartisan failure, and we need to have bipartisan solutions. So we're going to reach out to many voters who are traditionally Democrats and folks who are traditionally independents as well as Republicans and come together as a group of voters who want reform, who want government that's run for the benefit of the people again, who want a booming economy, who want value for the tax dollars and want great schools. And Evelyn has one of my favorite lines. I stole it from her, it's like I do most of my great lines. She said, Bruce, Hispanic voters in Illinois are mostly Republican, they just don't know it yet. You know, they're about faith and family and hard work and giving back. You know what? We're going to reach out and communicate with them. And I'm very gratified. We've had Latino leaders who are Democrats endorse us and come work with our campaign. We've had African American leaders who are traditionally Democrats, ministers in Chicago and in Rockford, and African American business owners endorse us and come work for our campaign. Greek leaders who are traditionally Democrats. They're small business owners, but they've been Democrats. They're coming to us because the business climate is so bad for their small businesses. Polish leaders in Chicago, Democrats, they're coming to, because our current governor is failing. Failing on schools, failing on jobs, failing on taxes. and they want results, and that's why we're running. We're going to get results. My own background, I was born on the north side of Chicago, but I grew up in Lake County, up in a community called Deerfield, up towards Wisconsin. My grandparents were dairy farmers in Wisconsin. My dad was an electrical engineer, worked at Motorola in Schaumburg. My mom was a nurse at Northwestern University Hospital. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I'm half Swedish, half German. German Catholic, Swedish Lutheran. My parents argue about it. I was raised Episcopalian as a compromise. My best friend growing up was my grandfather. My mom's family came from Scandinavia. My grandparents didn't speak English all that well. They lived in a little double white trailer outside of Whitewater, Wisconsin. My grandfather was a union guy, worked in the Hawthorne Melody Cottage cheese plant in Whitewater, but he had dairy cows and corn. I still raise some crops and have cattle myself. My aunt and uncle were ranchers out in Grand Junction, Colorado. But that's not my main business. My main business is the investment business. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a hunter. I'm a gun owner. Actually looking forward to moving here to Springfield. I'm going to be this is a novel idea. My wife and I are actually going to live in the governor's residence, and you know what? For lots of reasons, both to get things done with the legislature, but also, you know, the hunting and fishing and the Harley riding is way better in the center of the state than it is up in the Northeast anyway. But you know what? I'm a workaholic. I work my way through school. One of the reasons I love campaigning is it's hard work. My days start early and they end late, and I love that. 6.5 days a week. I've loved every minute of it. The people of this state are great, and I've loved meeting them, and I've loved getting our message out. But I worked my way through school. I worked at McDonald's. I parked cars. I flipped burgers. You know what? Anything to make a buck. I was a busboy. I was a waiter. In college, I was a short order cook at early in the morning, and for a few years, I was a radio newsman. I have a voice for radio. Although my friends who've seen my political ads say, Bruce, you do have a great voice for radio, but you have a face for radio too. Stay off of television. And I say, no, we're going to get our ads out there. When I got out of school, I met 2 executives at the First National Bank of Chicago, and they were leaving the bank to start a venture capital firm. I joined them right out of school. I was employee number 5, a little startup company. I was there for 32 years. I became a partner after 2 years in 1983, and I became managing partner of the firm in 1987. At the age of 31 years old. And we built that firm into one of the most successful investment companies in America. We helped finance the growth of dozens of successful businesses. But one of the things I'm proudest of is we managed state pension money. And we also managed university endowments. So I'm very proud of the fact I've been working my entire career. I've worked for teachers, state troopers, government employees, university professors, and university students and their parents. And you know what? We did a terrific job for our investors. We manage money for the Illinois pensions, Wisconsin, Minnesota, New York, Massachusetts, Washington, I think close to 2 states. And we did well over double the stock market returns over a 32-year period. We saved taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars, and we made a better retirement for teachers and government workers and state troopers. And I'm very proud of that fact. Business is all about solving problems and getting things done. And this is what our politicians are not doing. Business is about assembling talented teams of people, setting an agenda, setting out a plan, and then driving a result. And you know in business, to be a leader, you take on the responsibility, you shoulder the blame and the criticism, but you give credit out to the team. Always, everything's done by a team. Think about politicians. Politicians spend their lives gathering in all the credit they can take and avoiding all the blame they can duck from. That's what they do. I mean, but you know, I'm a perfect fit in there. I'm a perfect compliment for the folks here. I mean, put all the blame on me. It's okay. Tough decisions, put it on me. Problems, put it on me. I'll give you the credit. Take some tough votes that actually benefit our economy, benefit our business owners. Let's grow jobs in this state. Let's get that done together. I want to move here. I want to get to know every legislator on a first-name basis. I want to work together to solve problems and deliver results. I'm a problem solver. I'm a negotiator. I'm a team builder. And managing, leading, problem solving, team building, those aren't partisan. This is not partisan. This is getting results. And I'll work with anybody, anywhere on the 4 points. More jobs, lower taxes, better schools, term limits. I'll work with anybody, anytime. I've worked with the mayors in Chicago on school reform. I've worked with legislators on different school reform bills. I've worked in Chicago with the mayors on tourism growth and on pension reform. I'll work with anybody anytime. I may agree or disagree on certain points. Who cares? Nobody agrees 100%. Nobody. Let's find out where we do agree. We need major pension reform, not minor stuff that's going to get thrown out by the court anyway because it's unconstitutional. We need real regulatory reform. We need real outstanding schools. We should have the best schools in America here in Illinois. Best education system in America. That should be the top priority whenever we spend a taxpayer dollar. Top priority. That followed by infrastructure, so we've got a world-class base to build our economy from. We can get that done. We absolutely get it done. So I'm honored and excited to go to work for you. I've been studying with Mitch and the best governors. We've got a plan. We've got a vision. We've gotten a lot of support around the state. And I want to take what I've learned. You know, my wife and I have dedicated our lives to education reform. I want to take what I've learned in education and learned about businesses, building businesses and running organizations. What I've learned as my wife and I have gotten very involved in the community, especially around Chicago, but everywhere in Illinois. We built health clinics. We built the YMCA. My wife and I built the Red Cross. We give back. You know, the role model for me in my life is my grandfather. He didn't speak much English, didn't have much money, but he inspired me. Even when he didn't have a couple dollars to put in the collection plate on Sunday morning, he would put a couple dollars in the collection plate. You know what he said to me? He said 3 things that have guided my life. He said, Bruce, whatever you do, work your tail off and give it 100% your best. Doesn't matter so much what it is, just really, really give it your best, work your tail off. Number 2, dedicate yourself in your education. Go as far as you can in your schooling, because that's the key to your future. And number 3, give back in your community, because everybody needs some help. Find ways to give back, and that's what my wife and I have tried to do. My wife is the CEO of a not-for-profit that runs early childhood education programs for kids in poverty around Illinois and around America. And they have an extraordinary track record of success helping low-income students get ready for school, so when they get to first grade, they're ready to grow and thrive. And these kids and their single parents, who the organization coaches to how to be a parent and how to stay in school and get a degree and how to get a good job, the parent and the child do phenomenally well. And we've learned a lot of lessons about how to expand that program to help everyone in Illinois, everyone. I'm a big believer in the social services safety net. I think there are folks who deserve and need our support in the government. That, you know, folks who are vulnerable, weak, discriminated against, limited in their ability to have an income or to have a normal, healthy life, they deserve our help. And when we don't have a booming economy where you guys are growing and thriving, we can't afford to have a good social services safety net. And today in Illinois, we are shredding our social services safety net. Because we're so hostile to business, we don't have the money coming in to pay for it. How about if we get a booming economy and grow our way out of our problems? Would the politicians here think we can tax our way out of our problems? Let's be crystal clear. We cannot tax our way out of our problems. The key to our future is to grow our way out of our challenges. Growth. If we have a booming economy creating jobs and we have great schools, the other challenges we face get dealt with, they fall into line. Booming economy, pro-growth, great education system for everybody, our challenges get met over time. And we're going to deliver a result. I'm excited to go to work for it. I want you to hire me. I'll work for $1. I want to deliver results, but we got to be partners. Get engaged in the political process. I appreciate you letting me join you today. Thanks for caring. Thanks for wanting to listen. I need you. This is going to be a big team effort, and the business community needs to get a voice that's very aggressive, taking stances, taking positions, and supporting the folks out there who are battling for you. Otherwise, your voice does not get heard, and you get taken for granted, which is what's been happening. That's one of the reasons we're in such deep yogurt here, is the business community. You know, and I understand there's a little reluctance sometimes with business owners. You know, I don't want to be partisan. I'll play both sides, or I don't want the powers that be to get mad at me and hurt me, or tax me, or regulate me. So I'll just, you know, let me hide. Hiding doesn't work. You can see where hiding's getting us. We can see what's happening when the business community is being taken for granted and pushed around. That's what's been happening. And as long as that's true, we don't have a future. So I want to go to work for you. I'll deliver results. Please get informed, involved, and engaged. JoinBruce.com is our website. Spread the word among your friends and family and fellow church members in your company. I'd love to come. Evelyn and I are on the road 7 days a week. I'd love to come, do town hall meetings, shake hands with your employees, get to know them, spread the word. I want to go to work for every small business owner, but every working family in our state. You know, there's a spin on me. They say, Bruce, you're anti-union or you're anti-worker or whatever. Pure baloney. Pure baloney. That's the spin of my political opponents. I'm running to help working families in this state. Working families in Illinois are suffering because you guys are suffering. And they're suffering because the special interest groups, and these are special interest groups, the folks that make their money from government, inside the government, when they're sitting across the table from a politician and saying, I'll take some taxpayer-funded dues and give that to you as campaign cash and give you 10,000 workers in your campaign paid for by taxpayers. I'll do all that to get you elected. Now let's negotiate our pensions and our pay scale and our free health care. How about let's have that negotiation? Hello? Hello? What's happening to everybody, all the rest of us who aren't in that loop? We're getting abused. And working families are suffering as a result of that conflict of interest in that closed loop. Carpenters, electricians, plumbers, truck drivers, farmers are suffering in this state because of that closed loop. I want to open up that loop, and I want to represent everybody else in the state who's not in that loop. I want to go to work for them. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to let the government run for your benefit and the benefit of every working family in the state. Thank you for your time. We'll look forward to going to work for you. Minimum wage. Minimum wage, as I've been clear all along, I oppose it, raising it if that's all we're going to do. If that, just raising that and doing nothing else, I'm opposed. There's two ways I can support raising the minimum wage. One is if the national minimum wage gets raised up to Illinois so we're competitive with everybody else. Because today, one of the reasons we have the highest unemployment rate in the Midwest is we're not competitive with all the states around us. So if we're the same minimum wage as everybody else, I'll support that. The other way I could support raising the minimum wage and will is if it's combined with workers' comp reform, tort reform, and tax reform to be pro-business so businesses can afford to pay a somewhat higher minimum wage. I'll support that. That's my view. Doug Oberhelm, the CEO of Caterpillar, endorsed me day one in this race. Caterpillar, one of the largest employers in Illinois and in America, he told me workers' comp costs him and Caterpillar 5 times as much as it costs in Indiana. And they're growing all their jobs out of Illinois. And when I was with Mitch Daniels, getting his coaching and help and advice, he gave me a lot of great advice, but when the first time we sat down, and he said, wow, Bruce, you're impressive. You can win that race. I'm going to help you. You'll be a great governor. But he said, and he only said this half joking, he said, let me ask you a favor. When you become governor of Illinois, don't change your workers' comp rules too fast because it's my #1 job recruiting tool for Indiana. And I said, Mitch, let me be crystal clear with you. I want to change workers' comp so fast to make your head spin. And I want to steal 2 jobs from you back to Illinois for every one you stole from us. And he laughed, and he said, God bless you. Actually, Bruce, I hope you do that, because the reality is Illinois' hostility to business is hurting the entire business ecosystem throughout the Midwest. And Illinois is hurting Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa. And we're going to change that. Work together with the other governors to change that. Yes? Yes, I'm very much against keeping the tax hike permanent. I think that folks should be held back to what they promised it was going to be temporary. And we're going to have a plan that we'll be coming out with soon on how to step that back down, all the way down. And as part of that too, we're going to recommend an entire comprehensive tax code overhaul, compare our entire tax code, our entire tax base with the other well-run states around America, and figure out what should we change to. We got to reduce the overall tax burden and the overall spending burden and become as pro-growth as we can possibly be on our tax policy. And we're going to come up with that plan. We'll be releasing that plan in the not too distant future.
One more. How about the ability to get things done with 2 houses of Congress?
Yeah, so that's a great question. His question is, how can we get anything done if you're in one party and the legislature's in the other party? Well, they're all one party now, and how's that working? It ain't working. It ain't working. And when the governor and the mayor don't like each other and don't get along, it ain't working. That's a big problem. You know what? I'm a problem solver, and I'll work with anybody. I've worked with Democrats. I've worked with Republicans. Partisanship isn't the issue. It's problem solving. And I'm a problem solver and a negotiator. You know what? And I'll work very closely with the legislature on a cooperative basis, but I'll also use the power of the office to help drive some results. You know, the governorship in Illinois is very powerful. You have executive order ability to decide some things and just declare. Our former Governor Rod Blagojevich did some things with executive order that were extremely damaging. I can undo a lot of that. But you have line item veto, a mandatory veto. You control the checkbook and the spending. You control the key appointments throughout the government, so we can put pro-business, pro-growth regulators and government operators who are into efficiency and effectiveness and transparency. And I'm going to do what Mitch Daniels did, bring in 30 superstars from the private sector to run the government, so it's pro-business and pro-efficiency, so we can have jobs for everybody in Illinois who wants to work, and we can reduce the tax burden. And we can use the power of the office to negotiate with the legislature in a constructive way. And you know, the governor also handles the procurement and the contract negotiations with suppliers and the employee groups, et cetera. And I'm going to look out for taxpayers. That's what I'm going to drive a result using that. Now, I've got a steel backbone. I can't be bribed, intimidated, influenced. I don't need a job. I'm not taking pay. I don't need donations from any particular group. And I want to only take money from and work for the groups that really get a booming economy and great schools. That's the mission that I'm on. And we can get that done. The governor can work collaboratively with the legislature, and we can get some major things done. I'm excited to go do that. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.
The rest of the day.